Well, today we're going to be working on the console. I'm going to take you through kind of what I've been doing. And I've already done an intro, but now I'm editing. I'm going back and I'm going to change it because it's been a while. I haven't posted a video in a couple weeks because it's just been so much going on. And the weather's really been holding me back, and I haven't been able to get as much done when I wanted to. And now that the weather's good, I've been working like crazy late at night and about 1 or 2 in the morning most nights that I can. And I'm just behind on the editing. I've got like 2 or 3 videos videoed. I just have got to edit them and get them up. So I hope you like this video. We're going to go through kind of what I'm doing to build the console, the ideas I have. Go ahead, if you will, go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button, and hope you enjoy. Well, my biggest problem is I've been building cabinets and they're all in the way. So I'm trying to get all those put up and out of the way so I can have this area to work. And I've been thinking about this in my head forever. And the biggest thing that I absolutely hated about the way the Skiff was laid out originally was it had a standard console with a seat, center console with a seat, and the gas tank was under the console, took up the whole console, and you had nowhere to put batteries. So I was stashing batteries in the front deck. That put too much in front of the boat. If you didn't catch part 1, this is what I ripped out. This is the console I had, and the gas tank was under the console. We had just a regular swap flop back and forth seat. And without putting a battery box in the back, where it's going to be in the way, it's only 18-foot skiff, so there's not a whole lot of room back there when you're fishing anyway. I didn't really want to build something back there to put the gas tank in, and I wanted to keep all the weight centered, so whenever this thing's at the dock, I can pull the plugs and it'll still drain out the back and water won't come in. But I think I've got everything figured out. This is going to be the raised deck area right here, which is going to seat the gas tank. And the only ones I can find with the height that I need, I don't want to go too high, is a 19-gallon tank, which should be plenty for this Skiff because about 6 gallons will get you all day. So this is going to be the raised area. I'm going to do it 15 inches high up off of the deck, and I think the tank's right at 14. So, and we're going to do a leaning post, and I may have to make the floor of the leaning post up here a little bit, and that way I can put my spout on the left side of the leaning post, or my gas fill on the left side of the leaning post. That way I've got room to run all the piping and everything in there. But this is going to be pretty much a big box that'll stop right here at the console, and this will seal in all the gas fumes. But for the console, I think I've got it figured out pretty well. I'm going to do 44 inches high. I mean, that'll be 44 inches off of the floor of the raised deck. So I'm 6'4", so that's gonna work out about right for me. 30-inch high post, a leaning post off of the raised deck. And I think I've been measuring everything, trying to figure out where I want it, where it's just perfect. So we'll see how that works out. I hope all my measurements are right. I'm sure I'll have to adjust some of them as we go, but just helps me to get a good base idea, so I'm not wasting $80 sheets of plywood. All right, this is, I'm pretty sure it's Moretti marine grade plywood. And we're gonna go ahead, got my Craig jig on there on my skill saw. It's just way easier than trying to maneuver these big old heavy boards on the table saw. If you don't have one of those things and you do a lot of woodwork, you need one. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna try to go ahead and screw this together. And I'm gonna go ahead and get it pieced together in here, so when it's nasty outside, blowing, nighttime, whatever, I can have something to work on, feel like I'm accomplishing something, and that's just varnish. So I'm just taking a little drill bit and tapping some holes for sheetrock screws just to hold this together. And I'm gonna get it kind of in place, get all my screws where they're lined up, tapped, and then I'm gonna epoxy this together. But for now, I just wanna get all my holes in and kind of screwed in place where I can use the screws to clamp it together. And then once the epoxy is cured, I will remove the screws because eventually they'll break through the glass, because all this is going to be glassed and painted in the end. So Well, we have about a $75 bookcase. That's probably what the plywood cost for this, but I got it from a guy a long time ago and got a good deal on it. So, and I'm using 1/2 inch just to try to save a little bit of weight. And once I glass both sides, glass these in, I think we'll be good. So now all I've got to do is, when the weather's a little bit better, it's not quite as humid, I'm gonna mix up some thickened epoxy, and I'm gonna take these out on the sides, and now I can use these screw holes for clamps, clamp it all together and get it all glued together. I'll probably do these, leave these two out, so I've got more room to go ahead and glass the inside with one layer and go from there. All right, so I've mixed up some thickened epoxy, and it's just some milled glass and silica, and I've got my screws out, and I'm gonna go ahead and seal the sides, use my screws to clamp it together. And then while I'm at it, I'm gonna go ahead and run a radius here so I can lay glass on the inside. I'm gonna be pretty liberal with it because I can just smear off whatever is not absorbed and used to bond it together. So, and I'll use that for my radius. That's why I'm gonna go ahead and do it now. I'll have to sand it, so I'll get a mechanical bond on it whenever I go to glass the inside, because I'm gonna let this set before I glass it. But I'm gonna waste a lot of epoxy anyway doing this, so I might as well put it to good use. It's probably a little bit much, but that's all right. All right, we got our screws tightened up, and that's why I put it on plastic as well, so there's gonna be some squeeze out on the bottom, and that way it won't stick to my board. So I'm just gonna clean that up and move on to the next side. All right, so to get my radius, I'm just using popsicle sticks, and this is, I think these are 3/4, so I'm gonna have a 3/4 radius, and I think you only need a 1/2 inch for 17 ounce biaxle. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm gonna use a 3/4 radius, and the popsicle stick, something just good and disposable. Just clean it up on both sides. That way I don't have a whole lot of sanding to do. Nope, I messed it up a little bit there. All right, there we go. Well, so next day all my epoxy is cured, and I'm gonna go ahead and take a sander and knock some of these. I got a couple little spots that are high. Knock some of those off, and I'm gonna take my router with the round over bit and round these edges over. Well, that did a pretty good job, and I think that's a 3/8. I need to get me a 1/2 inch, but I don't know, 1/2 inch it's gonna cut a lot into here. So I think that I'm gonna sand it down just a touch more and smooth it up, because it did leave a touch of a little groove there, and I need to sand this epoxy so that way you get the blush off. But I think once I sand it a little bit more, turn the 3/8 into just a touch more of a curvature, I think that'll work out real good. But I like it. All right, that's gonna work good. All right, well, I've got my 12 ounce biaxle cloth cut. I'm gonna run a piece of tape on the outside and one on the inside. And then I'm gonna leave it like that for now. I'll go ahead and get the rest of the console put together and kind of the same way. And then once we put it in the boat, I'll fiberglass everything as one. console glued together, and I've got my tapers, or I can't think of the word, but I've got it rounded off on the inside, and everything is epoxy together with thickened epoxy with silica and some milled glass, and I've got everything smoothed out. I'm gonna leave this side off so I can get in here, and it'd be, if I put all this together, it'd be impossible to get up here and glass the inside. So for now, we're gonna leave this side off. This will be the last piece I put on. And now I'm gonna take my router and go ahead. I've got my taper right here for the dash. This is gonna be the top of the dash, and this is where the steering wheel will be. And these are some pretty tricky cuts. Well, probably not for a woodworker, but for myself, I've done cabinets, but as far as getting angles right and getting everything smoothed up and put together, a little bit tricky. It took me a few minutes, but it wasn't bad. So now I'm gonna take my router, get these things smoothed off. All right, got it looking good. This is kind of rough. The router leaves a little bit rough, so I'll smooth that out just a touch more and keep on going. All right, so I've got my console here. I went ahead and got everything smoothed out, and I went ahead and filled in these screw holes with thickened epoxy while I was working. This is gonna be the leaning post or half seat, whatever you wanna call it, while I was putting in the beads for this. And I really messed up on this thing. I don't even wanna talk about it, to be honest, but what the heck. So when I was putting all this together, I was just kind of came down here in a whim and started putting all this together. And I failed to take everything apart. I should have took the router and rounded off that edge, which, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just gonna cause me a lot more sanding. And I put these little blocks in. I don't even want to talk about that either. That same night I was down here messing around, I decided that, or no, what was it? Well, I decided it was too wide, and I wanted to cut it down by 1 inch. It was 18 inches, now I made it 17. But I was trying to cut these to length. I left them a little long on the front and the back, and I had it measured out and everything right. I had my table saw set up, and I ripped the stinking board the wrong way. So that's not ideal. So unfortunately, now on 3 inches in on this side, and on this piece on the other side, I have a seam. So that really stinks, but I hated to waste the wood and have to chop up another sheet. I'm gonna have to take some off of another one, but I've got, I think, just enough to do my front deck and all this consoles and everything. So I hate it. It makes me, I was very upset when I did that, and it's gonna kind of have a weak point, but I think if I put a layer of biaxial front and back tape, front and back, I think it'll be fine, because I epoxied the snot out of that when I put it together. So, and it's all thickened and has milled glass in it, so I think we'll be all right. But yeah, not my finest job here. And when I was putting all this together, it was starting to set on me. And if you've worked with epoxy before, when this starts to set, you gotta either get it done or just mix up a new batch. And I should have just, well, really it took me too long to get this piece together with this piece. But the reason I put this on the front and inset this is where the seat is gonna be, and it's gonna come down, it's gonna be like a L, and it's gonna fold up. So this is gonna be kind of the inset for the seat itself, the backing. So. All right, so when I was putting this together, I used a little piece of wood to clamp it, just to keep this level while the glue or the epoxy set. And I put a little piece of plastic under it. I was curious to see if that would keep the other piece of wood from sticking, because I don't want that there. So let's see what happens. Some of it may have leached through, no? Man, yeah. It actually worked. Well, it's windy as all get out today, and I really don't feel like taking the tarp off the boat. So I'm gonna go ahead and start working on glassing some of these in. This is the inside of the console, and I want the glass on up in here where it's gonna be about impossible to reach once I put the front on. And I'm gonna use peel ply. I've never used it before, but it sounds really neat. So it should work really good, I hope, if it does what they say. But I was gonna tape this, but my cloth is 30 inches, and this is only, I think, 24, 25 inches inside. I can't remember. But it's gonna, the way it's gonna overlap, there's gonna be 2 layers on all the corners anyway. So I don't think there's any need to tape it. Pretty close in, and I can already tell this is gonna be a pain. So we've got a 90, 45, and it's not wanting to bend. So what I've done is I've cut a slit in right here, so it'll fold down, and then a slit right here, so it'll overlap. I don't know if that's the correct way to do it or not, but it's the way I'm gonna do it. Well, I decided to go ahead and I cut some tape and put a slice in it and folded it in these corners because I already had to cut this, and I want to make sure these corners are really strong. So I've got my wood wetted out, and I'm just gonna put the glass out, try to get it in place, hopefully. Well, it's been a couple days and this epoxy is set, and we're gonna go ahead and start peeling this peel ply off. And I tell you what, this was just one big piece, and I just threw it up in here. This application, this stuff, I don't know, if I would have cut it, you know, the width, and then tried to do it right without trying to save the whole piece of peel ply and fold it over, it was a mess. But if I ever do this again, I'll just sand it. I think for big areas, this stuff would work great. That's mainly why I got it for the deck when I lay the deck. But for this, it's just a pain in the butt. Well, it comes off nice. But you're supposed to be able to reuse this stuff, supposedly. I'm gonna have to do some research because where I got epoxy on it, I don't know if that's still any good or not. Well, I'm trying to figure out how I want to do my lid for my seat for my leaning post, and it's flipped upside on the back right now. And I want to cut out a section right here because it's going to be a 90 right here that's going to fold up. And I went ahead and put a radius on this right here with a 1/2 inch bit, and that way I can also get my saw in there, my little jigsaw. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out right here. All right, well, I think this is going to work out pretty good, but we'll have to see once I try to glass it. But this is, hopefully, this little lip here, I'm going to mold some cover for this. So hopefully this will keep all the water out. All right, well, I got it all glued together. Use the screws again to clamp it all together, and mixed up some thickened epoxy with some glass fibers and silica. And I pretty much made a bit of a mess. This stuff, I don't know if I just need more practice or that's just the way it is, but I'm gonna try, I use slow epoxy that does not blush. So I've got 24 hours, and I'm gonna try tomorrow to get this cleaned up somehow where the glass will lay smooth. I've got some over in here that's kind of gelled up, but I'm gonna try to figure out a way where I can go ahead and glass this tomorrow before the 24 hours is up and I gotta sand everything. And if not, I may just have to sand it. It won't be the big deal if I do, but we're gonna give it a go, see what we can do with it. All right, well, it's been about 12 hours and this stuff's still a little soft, so I was able to use the old scrape tool and clean most of it up. So I think I've got everything pretty smooth. I did use some sandpaper in areas where I couldn't really get to scrape. Pretty much just sacrificial sandpaper and smoothed it all out. So I think we're good. I'm gonna mix up a little bit more thickened epoxy, fill in these screw holes, and then we're gonna put a layer of glass on it. Oh my goodness, that was a lot of work. But I got the inside done, and I've got I've got this side most of the way down and the other side most of the way down. And I'm gonna do this in 2 sections. I don't want to do it standing up because it'll sag, and it's getting late and I don't want to leave it where it could sag and I couldn't catch it and fix it. So I'm just gonna do the 3 sides, and I went ahead, I'm gonna give this peel ply one more shot, see how it does. Since I've got more of a flat surface, I've got it tucked in real good, rolled out, and then tucked under, so the wind is holding the corners tight. That was a real problem. Was the corners right here were wanting to come off, but I guess tomorrow we'll see what this looks like. And the real reason I wanted to use the peel ply was I had to use medium because it's getting pretty cool, and the medium hardener it's a blush hardener, so I'd have to sand everything down before I could finish it out on the other side. So this way, hopefully, I can go ahead and have it good and clean surface and just jump right in and go ahead and finish this thing out tomorrow. Well, there are parts of it that are good, parts of it that are a mess. But the peel ply did a lot better than I thought. I still got a little fairing and a little sanding to do. But for the most part, I mean, it's pretty dang good. I mean, it definitely kept it a lot smoother. It brought a lot of the epoxy to the surface. You can see the areas right here where it didn't adhere. And I mean, just a little touch up, a little fairing, I'll be ready to go. I mean, that looks pretty daggone good. But I had to ended up pretty much having to wet it out just a little slightly to get it to adhere, because I mean, it had a lot of bubbles, and it may just have been that peel ply, but I definitely had to, this area I wet it out just a little bit. Over in here, I didn't. But I mean, it turned out pretty good. This area's got quite a few bubbles. So if you wet it out, it definitely does a lot better. And it doesn't really take much epoxy at all. But I've definitely got some areas in here. This did not want to adhere. They didn't want to take the bend whatsoever. So I've got, it's not too bad though. I got most of it out. But like over right in here, it got late. It was like 12 o'clock at night. And I was just sick and tired of messing with it. So we're gonna have to just wait, sand that off. And I got some chop strand that I used to do all this back here, and it's got a few air bubbles on it, of course, but I guess it is what it is. So now I know that the 12-ounce tape does not take the bend. The chop strand does better, but it still didn't do great. So I think for my other doors, I'm gonna make a mold. I ordered some polyester resin, and I've already got clear coat. So I think for all my other doors, I'm gonna make a mold and try to make most of them the same size and do it that way, because this was a pain in the butt. But I mean, it works, but I don't know, I should have took a little bit more time on this, but I got to doing the inside and the outside and just kind of got caught up. So I've got some work to do. Well, of course, it's freezing cold again, and I can't really do much else. So I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the console some more. And this is, I don't know if you remember, but this is where the gas tank's gonna go, flips up, and then the leaning post goes back here. Well, I'm making hatches because I made these voids in here, which will be extra storage. They're kind of small, but you know, this thing, you need all the storage you can get. You can fit quite a bit of tackle in there. So I went ahead, marked them out. The opening's gonna be 10 by 14. And I went ahead and used 1/2 inch drill bit like I did previously. And that'll give me my tapers around the edges, make it kind of look a little neater, and give me a place for the jigsaw to start. So here we go. All right, there's one side. Well, by gosh, we're getting somewhere now. And this thing, I don't know, it's getting pieced all together. But the reason was because I changed a lot of stuff up and decided to go with rod holders beside the console, because the center console set right there. I'm gonna have rod holders right here. So I changed things up quite a few times along the way, which it didn't help, but that'll be all right. Fiberglass and epoxy can fix anything. That and duct tape. Post and where you're gonna stand in the console. That's where these hatches are gonna go. All right, well, we got it all glued together. And now we're just gonna let it cure for a little bit, let that set, and then I'm gonna run some glass on the outside, on the inside over here. All right, well this has been setting for a little while and it's getting tacky now. So I went ahead and cut my pieces of biaxial for the inside and the outsides. Go ahead and get these things glassed in. All right, well I think I got everything tabbed in that I can for now until I round all my edges and take all the screws out. But I think I've got everything done that right now I can. So I'm just gonna let this set and dry or cure, and then I'll come back, take all the screws out, round my edges, and get this thing finished up. All right, well my gas tank came in the other day and I've yet to stick it in here and see. But I kind of wanted to see what I had to work with. And I think I can I didn't tab these in yet until I got this, just so I knew the depth that I needed for the tank. And I think I can actually bring these in. I'm gonna keep them about a 1/2 inch off each side of the tank, and then I'll probably foam it in. But I think I'm gonna bring these in just a touch, because let's see, I've got about 2.5 inches there to play with, so that'll give me a little bit more room on the side compartments. Well, I'll come down here and I just kind of wanted to see what it looked like put together. So I've been doing a little bit of work here and there, and these are my hatch covers I made. This one I gotta do some adjustment on still, and I'm gonna make a different video for hatch covers. But I got this thing pretty much all glass. I still gotta do a little touch-up work on it. And I've got the center, the bottom, all glassed. And I've still got to do a lot of cleanup on. I was laying the glass, kind of ran everywhere and got piled on my plastic and stuck to it. So the console I've been kind of holding off on to decide kind of which way I want to go. I've got the inside glassed, all but this panel. So I'm going to go ahead, I think at some point later down the road, and glass this panel in, go ahead and get it ready to go, because I wanted to leave it out so I could get up in here and glass and everything. But still got to cut one hatch in. I'm going to probably cut it in right up in here, same size as those, that way I can make them all the same. And at the front up here, I've got to cut up a little and over to make this hatch a little bit bigger. This is where the batteries are going to go. But I wanted to see kind of how it all fit together. For some reason, I don't remember what I was thinking. I left the lip on here. When I was building this, I didn't account for that. So I'm just gonna take the saw, rip that lip off as I'm cutting the rest of the hatch out. And at some point, I'll go ahead and finish this up, get it glassed, and I'll do it just like this, get everything good and glassed, and then come back with some fairing compound and all the boring monotonous stuff. So, but I tell you what, I think I'm gonna like it. I think this is really, it's gonna add a little bit of weight, but it's gonna be really nice, I do believe. And you'll have the extra storage compartments and everything. So I can't wait to get this finished up and put in the boat. But for now, we're hitting the pause button, and we're gonna go ahead, oh, we got some good weather, and finish out the deck, get the foam poured and get the deck glassed in. Well, that's gonna be it for this video, and I've still got a lot of work to do on the console, but it's pretty much the basics of it. The rest of it's are gonna be just the same old stuff, cutting hatches and putting a little more glass and fairing and kind of the boring monotonous stuff. But I hope you're enjoying the videos. It's been a little bit of a struggle here lately, that's for sure. But the next one, I've already got like 3 recorded. It's just getting the time to sit down and edit them. But I've been working on the boat. So I've been down here till like 1 or 2 in the morning for quite a few nights the last week or so. So hopefully I'm gonna get caught up on my editing, get the videos coming up to you. So appreciate everybody watching. Go ahead and subscribe, because there's gonna be quite a few more videos to come. And hit the like button, and we'll see you next time.